The starship Unity's Dawn moved through space like a silver needle threading through black silk. Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge watching the stars drift past the main view screen. Behind her ship, 11 other vessels followed in perfect formation. Each ship carried diplomats, translators, and peace specialists from dozens of different worlds. This was the largest diplomatic mission the Galactic Peacekeeping Council had ever assembled. Lisa touched the communication panel on her chair. "Commander Thompson, please report to the bridge," she said. Her voice echoed through the corridors of the massive ship. The Unity's Dawn was 3 kilometers long and housed over 2,000 beings from 47 different species. Most of them had never worked together before this mission. Jake Thompson arrived within minutes. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of steady eyes that came from years of military service. As the human military liaison, Jake was responsible for the small security force that traveled with the diplomatic fleet. His job was to make sure everyone stayed safe while they tried to make peace in one of the most dangerous parts of the galaxy. "We're 6 hours out from the Kepler 442 system," Lisa told him. "Are your people ready for what we might find there?" Jake nodded slowly. "As ready as anyone can be for a 3-way war that's been going on for 20 years. The Vorthak Nereids and Zephyrite have been tearing each other apart since before humans even knew other intelligent life existed. Each side thinks they have the only valid claim to those planets." Lisa pulled up a holographic display showing the contested system. 3 planets orbited a yellow star similar to Earth's sun. Rich deposits of rare metals and energy crystals made the worlds incredibly valuable. The Vorthak were crystalline beings who claimed their ancestors had seeded the planets millions of years ago. The Nereids were aquatic creatures who insisted the worlds belonged to their ancient ocean empire. The Zephyrite were insectoid aliens, who said their hive queens had marked the territory long before the other species even existed. Dr. Foster finished her psychological profiles yesterday, Jake continued. "She thinks the key is getting them to see past their historical claims and focus on shared benefits. If we can establish mining rights that benefit everyone, maybe they'll stop killing each other." The bridge doors opened and Dr. Amy Foster walked in carrying a tablet loaded with data. She was a small woman with graying hair and sharp intelligence in her dark eyes. As the mission's lead xenopsychologist, she had spent months studying the 3 warring species. Her job was to understand how their minds worked and find ways to bring them together. "Captain, I've been reviewing the latest intelligence reports," Amy said. "Something bothers me about this whole situation. None of these species has ever requested outside mediation before. They've been fighting for decades without asking for help. Why now? Why did they suddenly agree to peace talks?" Lisa frowned. The council said all 3 sides sent formal requests within the same week. They specifically asked for human mediators because we're seen as neutral newcomers to galactic politics. "That's exactly what worries me," Amy replied. "In my experience, when enemies suddenly agree on something, it usually means they've found a bigger threat to worry about. What if they see us as that threat?" Jake checked his security reports on a nearby console. "The escort ships are running full sensor sweeps, but we haven't detected any unusual activity. The Guardian's Edge is maintaining position 200 kilometers off our starboard side. Captain Murphy has his weapons powered down per diplomatic protocol, but his crew is ready to respond if things go wrong." The Unity's Dawn continued deeper into the Kepler 442 system. Other ships in the diplomatic fleet carried specialists who would help establish the peace negotiations. The medical vessel Healing Touch followed behind them with Dr. Nancy Bell and her team of xenobiologists ready to treat any injuries during the talks. The science vessel Deep Horizon carried Captain Alan Brooks and equipment to survey the disputed planets and determine fair mining boundaries. The support cruiser New Haven under Captain Helen Torres transported supplies and temporary habitat modules for the negotiation site. Lisa had read the mission files dozens of times. Earth had been chosen to lead this diplomatic effort because humans had a reputation for creative problem-solving and cultural adaptation. In the 5 years since humanity joined the Galactic Council, human negotiators had successfully mediated 17 smaller disputes. The Council believed human flexibility and determination made them ideal peacekeepers. What the Council didn't fully understand was the other side of human nature. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world in the galactic databases. Only beings who evolved under extreme survival pressure ever developed the combination of intelligence, aggression, and adaptability that humans possessed. Most galactic species came from gentler worlds and had never faced the kind of challenges that shaped human evolution. "Captain," the navigation officer called out, "we're approaching the designated meeting coordinates. The fourth planet should be visible on the main screen in 30 seconds. Lisa watched as a blue-green world appeared ahead of them. It was uninhabited but had a breathable atmosphere and stable weather patterns, perfect for hosting peace negotiations between species that couldn't normally share the same environment. Temporary atmospheric processors would create separate zones, where each species could be comfortable while still meeting face-to-face. Long-range sensors are picking up movement," the sensor operator reported. "Multiple ships approaching from 3 different vectors. Looks like our guests are arriving." Jake moved to the tactical station and pulled up the identification displays. "Confirmed. Vorthek crystal ships coming in from the inner system, Nereid bio-vessels approaching from the asteroid belt. Zephyrite swarm ships emerging from behind the outer planet's moons. Each fleet has approximately 30 ships, all diplomatic. Protocols are active," Lisa announced to her bridge crew. "Shields are down to minimum power. Weapons are offline except for point defense systems. We're broadcasting friendship signals in 47 languages on all frequencies. Everyone stays calm and professional." Amy Foster watched the approaching fleets on her personal display. Something felt wrong about the whole situation, but she couldn't identify exactly what bothered her. The 3 species had been enemies for so long that seeing them coordinate their arrival times seemed suspicious. Why would mortal enemies suddenly become so organized? "The Vorthek fleet is moving into attack formation," Jake reported quietly. "Standard crystalline battle array. The Nereids are spreading out in their typical hunting pattern. The Zephyrites are forming a swarm configuration." Lisa felt a cold chill run down her spine. "Those aren't negotiation formations. All ships maintain peaceful postures but prepare for emergency maneuvers. Something isn't right here." The diplomatic fleet continued toward the 4th planet, broadcasting messages of peace and cooperation. Behind them, 90 warships from 3 different species closed in on their position. The humans had come to make peace, but their enemies had other plans. The first shot came from the Vorthek fleet without warning or communication. A brilliant blue beam of crystalline energy sliced through space and struck the Unity's Dawn directly in the diplomatic quarters. The explosion tore through 3 decks, instantly venting atmosphere and debris into the void. Captain Lisa Martinez felt the ship shudder beneath her feet as emergency alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. "All ships take evasive action," Lisa shouted into her communicator, but her words were cut short as a second beam punched through the main hull. The diplomatic section, where Ambassador Patricia Green had been preparing for the peace talks, simply ceased to exist. 200 diplomats, translators, and cultural specialists died in that single moment. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Murphy watched the attack unfold from the bridge of the Guardian's Edge. His destroyer was positioned to protect the diplomatic fleet, but the rules of engagement kept his weapons powered down. The escort ship's tactical display lit up red as energy signatures from all 3 alien fleets converged on the human vessels. "Sir, request permission to return fire?" his weapons officer called out. Murphy gritted his teeth as he watched the Unity's Dawn take another devastating hit. "Negative, maintain defensive posture until I give the word. All power to shields and engines." The Nereid fleet attacked next. Their bioelectric torpedoes moved through space like living creatures, seeking out the largest human ships. The organic weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy, but against the lightly shielded diplomatic vessels they proved just as deadly. The torpedoes attached themselves to hull plating and released massive electrical surges that fried life support systems and navigation controls. On the medical vessel Healing Touch, Dr. Nancy Bell felt the ship lurch as power systems failed throughout. The ship, emergency lighting cast eerie shadows in the medical bay as she tried to maintain life support for the patients already in her care. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the Zephyrite attack beginning. The insectoid species sent wave after wave of small drone ships toward the human fleet. Each drone was programmed with a single mission: find a human ship and detonate its explosive payload against the most critical systems. They targeted command centers, medical facilities, and evacuation pods with surgical precision. The drones moved too fast for the diplomatic ships to track, and their minimal defenses couldn't stop the relentless assault. Captain Alan Brooks of the science vessel Deep Horizon tried to coordinate a defense, but the three alien species had planned their attack perfectly. They struck simultaneously from different angles, using weapons designed to complement each other. The crystalline beams weakened shields, the bioelectric torpedoes disabled systems, and the explosive drones finished off any ship that tried to escape. "This isn't a warning shot or a territorial dispute," Brooks reported over the emergency channel. "They're trying to kill every human in the system." The diplomatic ship Peaceful Harbor exploded as Vorthak beam weapons overloaded its reactor core. Captain Helen Torres of the New Haven watched 300 beings die in a flash of white light. Her support cruiser was loaded with habitat modules and construction equipment. Not weapons, but she ordered her crew to ram the nearest Nereid bioship rather than die helplessly. The attack lasted exactly 18 minutes. When the weapons fire finally stopped, the space around the fourth planet was filled with wreckage and bodies. 12 diplomatic ships had been reduced to 3 barely functional vessels. The Guardian's Edge had survived by using its superior engines to stay ahead of the slower alien ships. The Deep Horizon had protected itself with experimental shield technology that the attackers hadn't expected. The New Haven had taken severe damage but remained operational after. Torres's desperate ramming attack disabled 2 Nereid vessels. Murphy's tactical display showed the devastating results. 2,700 humans were dead or missing. The greatest diplomatic mission in galactic history had become the worst massacre of peaceful ambassadors anyone could remember. The 3 alien fleets regrouped at a safe distance and began broadcasting messages throughout the galaxy. Dr. Nancy Bell worked frantically in the damaged medical bay of the Guardian's Edge. Survivors from other ships had been beamed aboard during the attack, but many were critically injured. She moved between patients, doing what she could with limited supplies and failing equipment. Through the chaos, she managed to record testimony from witnesses who had seen the attack begin. "They targeted the medical ships first," one injured diplomat told her. "The Zephyrite drones went straight for the red cross markings. They knew exactly what they were attacking." The alien fleet's propaganda broadcasts reached human space within hours. The Vorthak, Nereids, and Zephyrites claimed they had acted in self-defense against a human military invasion disguised as a peace mission. They showed carefully edited footage that made the diplomatic vessels look like warships and the destroyed medical facilities appear to be weapons platforms. Captain Torres accessed the Deep Horizon's communication array and intercepted transmissions between the 3 alien fleets. What she heard made her blood run cold. The attack had been planned for months. The peace negotiations had always been intended as a trap. The 3 species had formed a secret alliance with one specific goal: eliminate humanity before Earth could establish a stronger presence in galactic politics. Murphy, Brooks, and Torres held an emergency conference aboard the Guardian's Edge. Each captain carried sealed orders that were only to be opened if the diplomatic mission failed catastrophically. They had assumed those orders contained instructions for evacuation and filing formal complaints with the Galactic Council. Instead, they found authorization codes for something called Protocol Omega. The sealed documents explained that Earth Defense Command had always known this mission carried extreme risks. Sending peaceful diplomats into a war zone required backup plans that the Galactic Council could never know about. If humanity's peaceful intentions were rejected with overwhelming violence, if aliens chose to murder ambassadors and medical personnel, then the survivors were authorized to contact Earth and request a very different kind of response. Murphy activated the quantum communicator with shaking hands. The message he sent was simple and direct. Diplomatic mission destroyed. 2,700 dead. Request immediate implementation of Protocol Omega. Send the Deathworld fleet. The transmission reached Luna Station in less than 6 hours. Admiral Frank Rodriguez read the report 3 times before he fully understood what had happened. The aliens had made a fatal mistake. They had confused human restraint with human weakness. They had murdered peaceful ambassadors and medical staff who came offering friendship and cooperation. Now they would learn the difference between human diplomats and human warriors. Rodriguez issued a single order to every military installation. In human space, execute Protocol Omega, activate all reserve fleets. Prepare for total war. Admiral Frank Rodriguez stood in the command center of Luna Station watching the holographic display that showed human space spreading across dozens of star systems. Red emergency lights bathed the room as staff officers moved between communication stations receiving reports from every corner of human territory. The quantum message from Lieutenant Colonel Murphy had arrived 6 hours ago, and already the machinery of war was spinning to life. "Sir, the Mars defense grid is fully operational," reported Captain Sandra Price from her tactical station. "General Clark has confirmed that the Terran Marine Expeditionary Force is ready for immediate deployment. 2 million combat veterans are standing by for transport." Rodriguez nodded grimly. The humans who had volunteered for this mission were not ordinary soldiers. They were veterans of the Outer Colony Wars, men and women who had fought against pirates, hostile environments, and alien predators on dozens of different worlds. Each one had survived battles that would have killed most other galactic species before they even understood what was happening on Mars. General Susan Clark walked through the massive staging areas where dropships and assault transports were being loaded with weapons and equipment. Her Marines moved with the quiet efficiency of predators preparing for a hunt. These were humans who had grown up on worlds where everything tried to kill them, where survival meant being faster, smarter, and more ruthless than anything else in the environment. The Vorthic think their crystal cities make them invulnerable, Clark told her staff officers. The Nereids believe their ocean worlds protect them from land-based attacks. The Zephyrite trust their underground hives to keep them safe. They're all about to learn why Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. At the orbital shipyards above Earth, Admiral Rick Chun was overseeing the reactivation of the mothballed Dreadnought fleet. These massive warships had been built during humanity's early expansion period but were considered too aggressive for normal galactic relations. Each dreadnought carried enough firepower to sterilize an entire planet. They had been stored in deep space for 15 years, waiting for a situation that required overwhelming force. "The UES Retribution is ready for deployment," Chun reported to Rodriguez over the quantum link. "Admiral Williams has assumed command of the primary battle fleet. The Devastator and Annihilator are completing final system checks. Old dreadnoughts will be ready to jump within 12 hours. Rodriguez pulled up the intelligence files on the 3 alien species that had massacred the diplomatic mission. The Vorthak homeworld was a crystalline paradise where towering spires of living crystal reached into the sky. Their technology was based on resonance and harmonic frequencies. They had never faced an enemy that understood how to disrupt crystalline structures at the molecular level. The Nereid worlds were vast oceans dotted with floating cities and underwater colonies. The aquatic species had evolved sophisticated biotechnology, but had no experience fighting enemies who could manipulate their marine environment. Human terraforming technology included methods for boiling entire seas or introducing toxins that would poison every living thing in the water. The Zephyrite hive worlds were covered with massive underground tunnel systems where billions of insectoid aliens lived in perfect social harmony. Their military tactics relied on overwhelming numbers and coordinated swarm attacks. They had never encountered an enemy that could use their tunnel systems against them or understood how to target the specific pheromone frequencies that controlled their entire civilization. In the Kepler 442 system, the 3 surviving human ships continued gathering intelligence while they waited for reinforcements. Captain Alan Brooks of the Deep Horizon had deployed stealth sensor probes throughout the system. The data they collected painted a clear picture of how the ambush had been planned. The attack wasn't spontaneous, Brooks reported to Captain Murphy. We're tracking communication logs that go back 8 months. All 3 species have been coordinating their military movements since before the peace negotiations were even proposed. This was always intended to be a trap. Captain Helen Torres monitored enemy fleet movements from the damaged bridge of the New Haven. Her ramming attack had crippled 2 Nereid bioships, but the aliens had quickly moved to contain the wreckage. They were trying to salvage human technology and learn about Earth's defensive capabilities. They're making a mistake, Torres told her tactical officer. They think they can reverse engineer our equipment and figure out how to defend against our main fleet. What they don't understand is that our diplomatic ships were built for peace, not war. The real human military uses completely different technology. Dr. Nancy Bell continued treating survivors in the medical bay while documenting the war crimes that had been committed against clearly marked hospital ships. Her testimony would be crucial for the Galactic Tribunal that would follow, assuming anyone survived to hold a trial. The aliens had specifically targeted medical facilities and evacuation pods, violating every rule of civilized warfare. They shot at the wounded, she recorded in her official report. They destroyed evacuation pods carrying injured diplomats. They used weapons designed to cause maximum suffering rather than quick death. These actions go beyond military aggression into deliberate cruelty. The first human reinforcements arrived exactly 18 hours after the massacre. Captain Danny Walsh's stealth reconnaissance squadron slipped into the Kepler 442 system without being detected by any of the 3 alien fleets. His ships were built for intelligence gathering and target acquisition, equipped with sensors that could map enemy installations from light years away. Walsh's squadron split up to survey the home systems of all 3 species simultaneously. What they found confirmed Earth's worst fears about alien intentions. The Vorthak had been building a massive invasion fleet designed specifically to attack human colonies. The Nereids had developed biological weapons targeted at human DNA. The Zephyrites had constructed breeding facilities intended to produce warrior drones programmed with human genetic information. This wasn't just an ambush, Walsh reported back to Luna Station. All 3 species have been preparing for a war against humanity for over a year. The peace negotiations were meant to eliminate our diplomatic corps and give them an excuse to claim we fired first. Rodriguez received Walsh's intelligence report while standing in the war room surrounded by his senior staff. The holographic displays now showed the full scope of the alien threat. 3 hostile civilizations had formed an alliance for the specific purpose of eliminating humanity before Earth could become too powerful to defeat. They wanted a war, Rodriguez said quietly. They murdered our diplomats to start one. Now they're going to learn what happens when you pick a fight with a species that evolved on a death world. He activated the fleet-wide communication system that would reach every human warship preparing for deployment. His voice was calm and measured as he delivered the orders that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. All units, this is Admiral Rodriguez. Execute Protocol Omega. Destination, Kepler 442 system. Mission parameters, total victory, unconditional surrender, permanent occupation. The aliens wanted to see what human warriors look like. We're going to show them. The human war fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 250 warships arranged in the geometric pattern of a human skull. The flagship UES Retribution led the formation with Admiral Frank Rodriguez, standing on its bridge watching the enemy fleet scramble to respond. Behind the Retribution came wave after wave of dreadnoughts, destroyers, and assault carriers loaded with Marines who had volunteered to show the galaxy what happened when peaceful humans were murdered, the 3 alien fleets that had ambushed. The diplomatic mission were still celebrating their victory when long-range sensors detected the approaching human armada. The Vorthic crystal ships began forming their traditional battle array while broadcasting demands for the humans to surrender. The Nereid biovessels spread out in hunting formations, expecting another easy target like the defenseless diplomatic ships. The Zephyrite swarm ships prepared to launch suicide attacks against what they assumed would be lightly armed human vessels. Admiral Rodriguez activated the fleet-wide communication system and broadcast a message to all 3 enemy fleets. Simultaneously, his voice was calm and measured as he delivered humanity's final diplomatic communication to the species that had chosen war over peace. "This is Admiral Frank Rodriguez of the Terran Defense Fleet," he began. 72 hours ago, your forces attacked and destroyed a peaceful diplomatic mission. You murdered 2,700 unarmed ambassadors, medical personnel, and cultural specialists who came to your system offering friendship and cooperation. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally and submit to galactic justice. If you refuse, you will face the consequences of declaring war on a Class 12 Deathworld species. The Vorthic response came first. Their crystal ships launched a coordinated attack against the human formation, firing their brilliant blue energy beams in patterns that had destroyed enemy fleets for centuries. The crystalline weapons that had torn through the diplomatic ships, minimal shields struck the Retribution's military-grade armor and simply vanished into energy sinks designed to absorb stellar radiation. Captain Patricia Adams commanded the destroyer squadron that moved to engage the Vorthic fleet. Her ships opened fire with plasma cannons that had been developed by studying the cores of dying stars. The superheated matter struck the crystal ships at temperatures that exceeded anything the Vorthic had ever encountered. Their beautiful crystalline hulls, grown over decades in orbital gardens, turned to vapor in seconds. "Target their command ships first," Adams ordered her weapons crews. "Make sure their leaders see what's happening before they die." The Nereid bioships proved equally vulnerable to human military technology. Their living vessels had evolved sophisticated biological defenses against conventional weapons, but they had no immunity to the viral agents that Colonel Kevin Brown's science ships deployed. The engineered pathogens were designed to corrupt organic systems at the cellular level, turning the ship's living hulls against themselves. The biological attack successful, Brown reported, as Nereid vessels began convulsing and dying around him. "Their ships are literally dissolving as their own organic systems turn toxic. Estimated time to total fleet destruction, 14 minutes. The Zephyrite swarm tactics that had overwhelmed the peaceful diplomatic ships proved useless against human point defense systems. General Susan Clark's Marine fighters demonstrated why humans had dominated atmospheric combat on hundreds of different worlds. Every Zephyrite attack pattern was anticipated and countered with mechanical precision that no biological pilot could match. "Their swarm coordination is breaking down," Clark reported from her command ship. "Human pilots are individually superior to their drone-like formations. We're shooting them down faster than they can launch replacements." The space battle lasted less than 2 hours. 3 alien fleets that had taken decades to build were reduced to drifting wreckage and radiation. But Admiral Rodriguez had not come to the Kepler 442 system just to win a space battle. The aliens had murdered peaceful diplomats, and that crime demanded a response that would ensure it never happened again. "Begin planetary assault operations," Rodriguez ordered. "All 3 homeworlds simultaneously. Marines are authorized to use any weapons necessary to achieve unconditional surrender." General Clark's assault transports launched from their carriers like metal meteors falling toward 3 different planets. The Vorthic homeworld's beautiful crystal cities had stood for thousands of years, growing slowly in perfect harmony with their environment. Human sonic weapons reduced them to silicon dust in minutes. The crystalline beings had never faced enemies who understood how to shatter their molecular structures with precisely tuned frequency attacks. The Nereid ocean worlds had seemed impossible to assault, until human engineers activated their atmospheric processes. The devices had been designed to terraform hostile worlds, but they could just as easily turn paradise into hell. Ocean temperatures rose rapidly as thermal bombardment turned entire seas to steam. The aquatic species that had lived in those waters for millions of years found themselves boiling alive in their own homes. The Zephyrite hive worlds burned as human forces flooded their tunnel systems with toxic gases designed specifically to disrupt insectoid respiratory systems. The underground cities that had housed billions of beings in perfect social harmony became death traps as atmospheric processors pumped lethal compounds through every passage and chamber. Captain Danny Walsh coordinated the assault from his stealth command ship, watching as three civilizations that had thought they could eliminate humanity discovered the true meaning of Deathworld warfare. The attacks were surgical, overwhelming, and absolutely merciless. Every military installation, government facility, and industrial center was obliterated within the first day. Civilian populations are being spared per protocol, Walsh reported. But their military capabilities are being permanently eliminated. They'll never threaten anyone again. Dr. Nancy Bell monitored the medical channels as reports came in from the 3 planets. The aliens were requesting medical assistance and humanitarian aid from the same humans they had tried to genocide. Human field hospitals were being established on all 3 worlds to treat wounded civilians, but only after all military threats had been eliminated. They're learning the difference between human diplomats and human warriors, Bell observed. Our medical teams are saving alien lives even as our military forces destroy their war machines. This is what they could have had if they'd accepted our original peace offering. The assault continued for 72 hours until every alien military installation in the system had been destroyed. 3 species that had planned to divide human space between them now faced complete military occupation by the beings they had underestimated. Their fleets were gone, their weapons factories were rubble, and their governments had ceased to exist. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Retribution looking down at 3 conquered worlds. The aliens had wanted to see what human warriors looked like when they stopped pretending to be peaceful diplomats. Now they knew why Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, and why every other galactic civilization gave humans such a wide berth. All resistance has ended, General Clark reported from the surface operations. The surviving alien leaders are requesting terms for surrender, Rodriguez smiled grimly. Tell them the terms are simple. Unconditional surrender, complete disarmament, and permanent human oversight. They wanted a war with Deathworlders. Now they'll live under Deathworld protection whether they like it or not. 6 months after the massacre of the diplomatic fleet, Ambassador Robert Tyler sat across from the defeated leaders of the 3 alien species in the main conference room of the UES Retribution. The peace talks were being held in the same system, where their predecessors had tried to murder innocent diplomats, but the circumstances were very different now. Human Marines stood guard at every entrance while human weapons platforms orbited 3 planets that no longer had the capacity for resistance. The Vorthek representative was a small crystalline being whose once brilliant form had grown dim with defeat. The Nereid delegate was an aquatic creature confined to a portable water tank, breathing through mechanical gills because her homeworld's oceans were still recovering from thermal bombardment. The Zephyrite speaker was a worker drone, whose hive queen had died in the underground cities when human gas attacks disrupted their social structure. Tyler opened the folder containing the surrender terms that had been drafted by the Galactic Council and approved by Earth Defense Command. The negotiations would be brief and one-sided because the 3 species no longer had any military power to bargain with. They had learned the difference between human peacekeepers and human warriors in the most devastating way possible. The terms are simple and non-negotiable, Tyler began. Complete disarmament of all military forces, payment of reparations for the murdered diplomats, and permanent human oversight of this system. Your civilian populations will be allowed to rebuild under human protection, but your military capabilities are permanently ended. You went to war with diplomats and discovered what happens when you threaten a Deathworld species. The Vorthic representative spoke first, her crystalline voice weak and broken. We understand the terms. Our crystal ships are destroyed, our weapons, factories are dust, and our military leaders are dead. We accept human authority and ask only that our people be allowed to survive. The Nereid delegate gestured weakly with one flipper. Our biofleets are extinct and our ocean cities are ruins. We have no choice but to submit to your demands. We ask for medical assistance to help our people recover from the thermal attacks. The Zephyrite drone clicked its mandibles in the gesture of absolute surrender. Our hive queens are gone and our swarm ships are destroyed. Our workers will obey human commands. We request guidance on how to rebuild our society without military castes. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Murphy, now promoted to admiral after his survival of the original massacre, watched the proceedings from the observation deck above the conference room. He had been present when the diplomatic mission was destroyed and had sent the message that brought the Deathworld fleet to exact revenge. Seeing the alien leaders broken and submissive brought him no joy, only a grim satisfaction that justice had been served. Captain Helen Torres, now commanding the Kepler Defense Fleet, received daily reports from the 3 conquered worlds. Human administrators were helping the alien populations rebuild their civilian infrastructure while ensuring that no military capabilities could ever be restored. The occupation was firm but not cruel, designed to demonstrate that humans could be both merciful victors and implacable enemies. Reconstruction is proceeding on schedule, Torres reported to Tyler after the surrender ceremony ended. The Vorthic are growing new cities using human-approved crystal formations that cannot be weaponized. The Nereids are repopulating their oceans with species that survived the thermal bombardment. The Zephyrites are establishing new social structures, based on individual choice rather than hive mind control. Dr. Amy Foster, one of the few diplomatic survivors from the original mission, was working with alien psychologists to understand how 3 intelligent species had convinced themselves that murdering peaceful ambassadors was acceptable behavior. Her research would help prevent similar tragedies in the future. They genuinely believed that humans were scouts for a military invasion, Foster explained to Tyler. Their intelligence networks had misinterpreted our expansion activities as preparation for conquest. They thought they were defending themselves against an aggressive species that intended to enslave them. Tyler reviewed the propaganda broadcasts that the 3 species had transmitted throughout the galaxy after their attack on the diplomatic fleet. The messages had been carefully crafted to portray humans as the aggressors and the ambush as a defensive action. Only after the devastating human counterattack did other galactic civilizations realize how badly the aliens had miscalculated. Captain Alan Brooks supervised the construction of the Kepler Memorial Station on the 4th planet where the peace negotiations were supposed to have taken place. The massive structure served as both a monument to the fallen diplomats and a stark reminder of what happened when peaceful intentions were answered with violence. A simple plaque in the main hall bore the names of all 2,700 victims along with a warning in 47 languages. Here lie those who came in peace. Their deaths taught the galaxy why Earth is called a death world. Dr. Nancy Bell established medical centers on all 3 alien worlds, treating civilians who had been injured during the human assault. Her work demonstrated the dual nature of humanity more clearly than any diplomatic speech could have done. The same species that had devastated 3 civilizations in 72, ours was now saving alien lives and helping them rebuild their shattered societies. They're beginning to understand us, Bell reported to the other survivors. We came offering friendship and they responded with murder. We answered their violence with overwhelming force, but now we're showing them mercy they never showed our diplomats. They're learning that human strength comes from choice, not weakness. The memorial station became a pilgrimage site for beings throughout the galaxy who wanted to understand humanity's place in galactic civilization. Visitors could walk through exhibits that showed the peaceful diplomatic mission, the brutal ambush, and the devastating military response. The message was clear: humans preferred peace, but were capable of total war when their peaceful intentions were betrayed. Tyler received a priority message from Earth while reviewing the final surrender documents. Another diplomatic crisis had emerged in the Tau Ceti system, and the Galactic Council had specifically requested human mediation. The message included a single line that made him smile grimly. Peace is our preference. Compliance is guaranteed. He looked out through the station's observation windows at the 3 alien homeworlds orbiting peacefully below. Reconstruction ships moved between the planets, carrying supplies and personnel to help the conquered species rebuild their civilian societies. The most powerful military force in the local galactic arm maintained a protective watch over beings who had tried to exterminate them. Captain Torres, Tyler called over the communication system. Prepare the fleet for departure to Tau Ceti. It seems the galaxy has another conflict that requires human attention. Torres appeared on the view screen with a knowing expression. I assume we'll be taking both diplomatic and military vessels this time? Tyler nodded as he watched the memorial station's lights reflect off the hulls of human warships. The galaxy is learning that when humans offer peace, it's wisdom to accept it. Because the alternative is discovering what happens when a species evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld decides that diplomacy has failed. The story ended where it began, with humans preparing for a diplomatic mission. But this time, the galaxy understood the true nature of the beings they were dealing with. Peace was humanity's gift to civilization, but it came with the implicit promise that those who rejected it would face the wrath of Deathworlders.